right all over it, you're good. Don't worry, we got you covered. You can also zoom in on your computer, so everything will be good to go. Kind of quick rundown of what to expect. Basically, I've got 3 quick stories I'm going to share with you. Talk a little bit about myself, because who doesn't like to talk about themselves, but then more importantly, because when it comes to cooking and meal prep, not only do I think it's extremely important, I'm insanely lazy, I hate cooking, I don't like taking the time, so if there's certain things that I can do, there is no excuses, because I'm a terrible cook, and like I said, I do not like doing it. So if there's something I can do, I know you guys can apply some of those principles to yourself. What you have with you is one, just a food list that's not all inclusive. There's a lot more things that you could put on there. You also have a sample, kind of like a weekly planner, and I'll talk a little bit about that as we go and why I think that's super important. And then a lot of people ask, well, what are you doing when you're trying to lose weight, this and that? And I came up with kind of a rough idea. I don't really have a plan per se. I don't plan out every single meal, but I do stick to certain principles, and I do think that's super important. It gives you more of a flexible approach. You can still do a lot of things. You can still go out to eat, but you just got to make sure is it sticking within certain guidelines. All right. So first thing, quick story. I was with my friend Megan down at a psych ward one time touring it, and the tour guide pulls us into the He pulls us into this room. Yeah, I know it's weird, but tour guide pulls us into the bathroom, or this like room where there is a tub there where they do some of the changing, where they bathe some of the people there, and he's like, and it's full with water, and he asked, kind of as a joke but as a serious question, he's like, all right, so the tub's full of water. He goes, you've got 3 things here that you could use to get the water out of the tub: a spoon, a cup, or a pail, a bucket. You know, which one would you use? And he asked my friend Megan this, and she thinks about it for a minute, and she's like, well, clearly the pail, because it's the biggest. And his response was, well, actually, ma'am, most people would just pull the plug out and let the water drain, but I'm sorry, we don't have any room for you. And I think that, while it's funny, I think that applies because when it comes to your meal planning, we overcomplicate things so much. Like the weight loss industry, and on the nutrition side of things, supplements is over a $20 billion a year industry, and it's only getting bigger, but yet it's not really producing the results that people are looking for, because people are also getting bigger. But it's not working. I think the biggest reason why is because we overcomplicate things. So what I've really tried to do is, all right, how can we like simplify things and dummy stuff down so much that anyone without putting much thought into it at all can really pick up on what they need to be doing. And how to do that, the first thing I believe everyone needs to do is create some rules. And this is different for everyone. But you have to decide, when it comes to, if your primary goal is to lose fat, what are the rules that you're going to put in place? And you got to stick to them. And the reason I think that's so important is because when there's rules, you don't have to think about it. The whole idea is, how can we simplify things, and how can we make them as easy as possible, and how can we remove all the thought process? How can we remove the decision making? Our willpower is a very limited resource, and the more decisions we have to make, the less we will make the right decisions. So we want to simplify our decisions as much as possible and remove a bunch of them. Your willpower is a very limited resource. That's why most people tend to make worse decisions at the end of the day, because they've been thinking all day at work, and they're exhausted mentally. And every decision you make, especially one thing that's interesting that I find fascinating is how many people come here that are in some sort of like leadership management position, and they're exhausted because it's not necessarily physically exhausted, but because people are always asking them questions. They're always having to make decisions all day, every day. And I think the fewer decisions you have to make, the easier it is. It's just like a lot of, you could use an example, a lot of the laws we have in place. There's certain things we do because like this is what you do. You don't have to think about it. And the easier you make these decisions, the easier it'll be. Think about brushing your teeth in the morning, assuming everyone's on board with that. It's not like you brush your teeth and you're tired or you're exhausted, because you don't have to think about it. You just do it because it's so ingrained, it's so second nature to us. So the more we can create rules and boundaries, then I think it's a lot easier because you just know what to do. And a couple examples, and again, I'm just giving you examples that work for me. You can kind of take this and use it however you want. A couple examples for me. I'm obsessed with coffee. I cannot have coffee until I've drank at least 36 ounces of water in the morning. I want my coffee, but in order to get my coffee, I have to drink 36 ounces of water. Now that's a lot of water, but for me, that's fine. And it's a rule, so I don't have to think about it. It's automatic. And it might be challenging at first, but the more you start to do that, the easier it is. When I'm, like right now, really trying to get serious about dropping body fat, one of my rules is no sweets. It's not a, well, maybe, sort of, it's just no sweets. I cannot have sweets. And that's just, and it's a rule. And then I also put rules in place to support that. Whenever I was in Chicago last weekend at a workshop, I said, whatever, do whatever I want, don't care. Because it's not something you have to do 24/7, but it was a guideline from when I got in Chicago on Wednesday till I came home Sunday. I ate a lot of pizza and drank a lot of beer, and I'm totally fine with that. But the second I got back, that's all over. And it's easy because you don't have to think about it because it's a rule you have in place. And you can have those times when you go with your spouse to Napa, or and you're going to wine country, or like those trips. You can have those times in place, but it can't be like every weekend, and it can't be like for 5, 6, 7 days. So I think you have to figure out what those rules are, such as, like I said, the water and coffee thing. For me, I have to have 4 servings of protein every single day. It's not, well, maybe if I get to it. It's just that's what I have to do, and then therefore I can plan for it. So think about what are some of those rules for you that will help kind of remove some of those decisions. And again, like I said, there's a lot of them. I'm going to send a follow-up email with these in a PDF, and along with that, I'm also going to kind of give a list of like just different ideas. Oh, well, you could do this, or you could do this. As far as putting parameters around your rules. Another rule, for example, and this also applies to your fitness, just to kind of give you another example, is right now, my rules, I have to burn 100 milestone points a day, every day. Like yesterday, for example, I did not want to, but because it's a rule, I didn't allow myself to talk myself out of it. It was just like, I gotta get 100 milestone points a day. Didn't want to, but just did it. So again, what are those rules, and what do they work for you? Or how do they work for you? A couple other things as far as strategies to simplify. I think cooking in bulk. I couldn't tell you the last time I cooked like a single meal. I do understand being a bachelor versus having a family. There's other dynamics that come into play. So I totally get that. But I do think cooking in bulk is it's a huge time saver. But even on like the example I gave, I eat the same couple foods almost every day. I eat the same foods. I buy them in bulk. I also, something that I've learned to do that I think is great is I buy everything as readily accessible as it can be. I don't buy heads of broccoli. I buy broccoli that's already chopped up. It's just one more step. I don't buy, other than onions, I do not cut up any vegetables. It's just, everything's already cut, everything's already sliced, ready to go. It's simple. And again, the simpler you make things and the less decisions, if you're cooking vegetables, preparing your vegetables for the week, and it's like, oh man, first I gotta, cut them up, and then, or first I gotta wash them, and then I gotta cut them up, and then I gotta do this, and then this. Each step makes things a little more challenging, and it's just one more step that kind of gives you another reason to talk yourself out of it, or I'll do it later. So I think every step that you can eliminate will make things much, much simpler. So cooking in bulk I think is huge, and then planning ahead, and like today's topic, kind of meal prep 101. I think like the sheet I printed out that has a blank copy that you guys can all get. I kind of now, I've done it so long I do it in my head, but on the weekly meal planner, the one that's blank, that's something that if you're not planning your meals, I think that's something that's such a no-brainer that it could go a long way for just, all right, what am I going to have? What am I going to have each meal, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snacks? Plan it out ahead. I think doing so will save you, again, it will remove decisions, because you could also, for a lot of families that I've talked to that do this well, they have a theme, like Tuesday's taco night. You could pick, Thursday's cheeseburgers. But, if you've got kids, whatever, pick a theme for the nights. and I'm using dinner as an example because that tends to be the most challenging meal for most people. But have a theme for each night so that it's not. The story I hear often is, oh well, we ended up going to this place for dinner Thursday night, and because I didn't feel like cooking. I hear that often, and if things are prepared in advance, you can eliminate a lot of those minor setbacks. Another thing is when you're cooking in bulk, think about how you can reuse things or repurpose foods. So if you're cooking chicken off for whether it's for you, spouse, kids, cook extra, and then you can have Monday night you could have a chicken salad. Put it in a salad with some other stuff. Tuesday night, throw some barbecue sauce on it, let it simmer in the crock pot for a little bit. You get a barbecue chicken Tuesday night. Reuse some things so that, and I'll do that a lot. So it's not necessarily the same. It might be chicken or tilapia or salmon, but it might be cooked 3 or 4 different ways over the course of a week. So if you're someone that doesn't like eating the same foods over and over again, then that's an easy solution to where you can still cook in bulk, but going into dinner, your meals planned ahead in advance. Kind of quick question: how many of you guys do plan your meals in advance? Or do you? Okay.
Just breakfast and lunch. The day before.
Yeah. I mean, anything helps. I mean, like I said, anything can go a long way towards helping you out. But I do think, like, just looking at it a week at a time goes a long way. For example, like I said, again, using myself, Sunday's the day I go to the grocery store. I come in, work out, work for a couple hours, go to the grocery store on my way home. And then I cook my food as soon as I get home. I don't even put it in the fridge. Cook it right away, so there's no excuse as far as, oh, well, this came up or that came up. It's done. Again, I don't have to think about it. So, and again, that kind of gets back to my rules. So Sunday's my grocery shopping day, and I do it, as soon as I get done here at the gym, before I even get home, to eliminate having to make that decision. Oh well, I'll go to the grocery store later, and then having to talk yourself get back out of the house. I do it, like I said before. I even have a chance to get busy doing other things, and then I cook the food before it's even in the fridge. So I can't talk myself out of I didn't have time. So Sunday's grocery shopping day, and then also the day I'm doing most of my food prep. So again, getting back, thinking about what do those rules look like for you? How is that going to work? And I think that will go a long way towards eliminating the decisions that we have to make, and that's huge because I think it's no secret. Everyone knows what they should be doing. Like everybody knows grilled chicken's good, broccoli's good, alcohol is bad, fried whatever is bad. Everyone knows what they should be doing, but it gets down to the difference between like knowing and doing. And like I said, everyone knows what they should be doing, but actually taking action and doing it is a different story. And I think the best way to do that is to plan ahead, create those rules, put those rules in place, and just eliminate as many of the decisions that you can to talk yourself out of it. So, next story, back to my friend Megan. She's got twin 12-year-olds, Patty and Nancy. And Patty and Nancy, like I said, the twin girls raised the exact same way, nothing's different. Now that they're 12 years old, they're starting to see that Nancy is a real pain in the butt, always giving them a headache. Patty's just like always upbeat, always happy. So finally Megan went to see a therapist, was like, what's going on? The therapist said, bring the kids back on Tuesday. She brought the kids in on Tuesday, and the therapist said, all right, we're going to split the kids apart and see what happens. So they put one kid, and they put Nancy in a room, and the room's got like games everywhere, iPad to play with, trampoline, ice cream machine, whole 9 yards. They sit back, watch, and Nancy just sits in the corner pouting. The therapist's like, Megan's talking to the therapist, I don't understand what's going on. They finally go in, and it's like, Nancy, what's going on? What's the problem here? Nancy says, I don't know what to do. I'm not happy. Well, why not? There's an iPad you could play with right there. Kids love iPads. Yeah, but there's probably a passcode on it, and I don't know it. All right, well, what about the ice cream? It could upset my stomach. What about the trampoline? I don't want to fall and get hurt. And the therapist's just like, you gotta be kidding me. So he grabs Nancy by the arm. They go in the other room, and there's Patty. And Patty's just in this big open room, kind of dark, not even really well lit. And there's a pile of dog poop in the corner. And Patty's running around the room, dancing, laughing, having fun. And the therapist walks in and is like, Patty, what the heck's going on? Like, what are you doing? Why are you so excited? And Patty goes, well, I figured whenever I saw the poop in the corner, there's got to be a puppy in here somewhere. And I think, where that applies to us is, we all have setbacks, we all have problems that come up, like life gets in the way, there's no secret about it. But what is important, I think, is how we respond to that and how we deal with it. So looking at and that kind of brings me to my next point, looking at your food and everything, we're all gonna have setbacks, but are we gonna make the most of them? Or is it gonna be one of those, I had an emergency at work, so I ate pizza? Or just, find, what I'm trying to say is, when things get bad, you don't have to necessarily go to the extreme and eat like the worst food and open the bottle of wine and do all the other things that are gonna, hurt our progress. So on the example sheet, and again, I'm gonna email you some even more ideas, I talk about what are those, for me, emergency foods. What are those things that when crap hits the fan, what do you turn to? And it doesn't necessarily have to, don't think like, well, I can't have my meal I planned, so I'm just gonna have McDonald's instead. It's like, where's the happy medium at? There's a compromise in there. I've talked about in a couple of my emails lately, like something that over the last probably 3 months I've became obsessed with are these little frozen Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches. By no means are they a excellent choice. They're not, but they're great for whenever I get in a bind. One, they're frozen, so it's not like, oh, they're gonna go bad in a week. And that's where I really like frozen foods, especially living by myself. If my week gets thrown off, there's something I might not touch for a couple weeks. So, what are for you, what are those emergency foods? For me, and I have them listed there, like the Jimmy Dean breakfast sandwiches. I think they're great. It's a good compromise. It's a good happy medium. If there's times where I'm just feeling really hungry and just feel like eating a lot of food, I'm a stress eater. When I get stressed out, I want to eat. As weird as it sounds, I'll now turn to like a pre-made salad. I usually buy them in Sam's, just an individual serving, dressing, everything right there. I can make it in under 2 minutes. Or like broccoli. If I'm just hungry, I'll put some cheese on it or something where it's not as good, because I'm obsessed with cheese. So I'll put cheese all over it, and again, it's not perfect, but it's a lot better than what I would have done even like 6 months ago, which is grab ice cream. So what are those compromise foods for you? Protein shakes, protein bars. A lot of people ask about like protein bars. Most of them have a bunch of added junk in it, so they're not necessarily great. But again, when you look at if someone says, is this, I had a couple emails this week that were, is this good for me? And my response is, what's the alternative? Right? And that's what I will say 100% of the time. When is this good or bad for me? My response is, well, what's the alternative choice? So to kind of wrap things up, and then we're going to open it up to some, see what you guys are struggling with, what we can work on. There's an old sage walking through the forest with his apprentice. And they're walking along this path through the forest, and the sage says to the apprentice, he's like, I want you to bend down and pick that and pull that up out of the ground. And the apprentice is like, okay, he bends down, picks up just a small, 6-inch tall plant, and rips it up out of the ground. The sage's like, perfect. They keep walking, and so they move on. They keep walking through the forest, and the sage comes up on like a 3 foot tall, 2 to 3 foot tall bush. And he's like, I want you to rip that up out of the ground. The apprentice is like, okay, all right. So he does it, and it's a lot more challenging. It takes about 10-15 minutes, and he's pulling and doing everything and digging, gets his hands all dirty. Finally, he gets it up out of the ground. And the sage is like, all right, that's good. Let's keep going. So they walk a little bit further, and the sage says, all right, I want you to rip that tree up from the ground. And the apprentice is like, there's no way, that's impossible. He's like, it can't be done. And the sage is like, exactly. He goes, that's exactly what your habits are like. The longer you allow these bad habits in your life, the deeper the root system grows. And the deeper the root system grows, the harder they are to remove from your life. So whatever those habits are that you need to change, whatever things that you need to do different, the longer you let them wait, and the longer you let them wait, the deeper the roots grow and the harder they are to root. So whatever the changes are that we all need to make, and we all have areas that we need to improve on, the best thing I can say is to not wait. There's never going to be the perfect time to just do it, but the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be. So, what kind of question? What are you guys struggling with? What's